All right, and we are back in class. This is Vadim, the CBD professor from cbdschool.com, coming at you on July the 16th, 2018, with what I think is going to be a pretty quick podcast, but we'll see how long I drone on about this. Anyway, what's worse than spending your hard-earned cash on a phony product? I'm going to be talking about fake CBD. How can you tell if your CBD is fake or not? But in general, what's worse than buying something that you thought was one thing, but it turns out to be counterfeit? Not much is worse than that, am I right? So, at least when it comes to buying stuff, there's probably worse things in the world, obviously, but when it comes to buying something, especially something you take as a supplement, you don't want it to be a fake. So, as I said, I'm recording this as audio, but I'm going to throw up some lab reports on the video so that you can see what I'm referring to in your own life, and you can check in your own on your own time this sort of thing, so that you can make sure you're not getting a fake CBD as well. But why are people even worried about this in CBD? Well, the reason is that CBD is part of the cannabis industry, which at this point in time is still very new and it's not really regulated. So when you're buying a product, you are relying on that brand to be doing all the necessary checks and balances to make sure that they're giving you giving you a good, not a fake product, that they're giving you a good, real and safe product. Whereas in other industries, there are more checks and balances in place because there's more regulation and they're older. And I'm sure cannabis will get to that, but it's not there yet. So what do I even mean? Now, hold on. And on top of that, as we know, and as I've covered before in my content, there is unfortunately a pretty high amount, or a concerning amount. Let's just say there's a reason to be suspicious, okay? The most recent study showed, I think, almost 50% mislabeling among I'll have to dig up that study again, though, but a high percentage of mislabeling among products in the CBD industry. As far as, all they did was they just ordered a bunch of CBD online from a bunch of different companies, like 30 different companies, and it was a big chunk of them were mislabeled as far as the CBD and THC content. Now, that's not the only thing you want to look for when you're looking to make sure you don't have a fake CBD product, but the answer is on how do you make sure you don't have a fake CBD product is there's only one way. You have to check the lab report. So you don't trust, you verify. And that's not a quote from me, but that's from the cryptocurrency space of don't trust, verify. I don't know who said it. I got that from Nick Szabo, though. So anyway, the first thing you want to look for when you are checking to make sure that you have a real CBD product and that it's not fake, meaning you want to check that the product actually has CBD in there. So what you do is you go to any lab report for a CBD product, will show you the cannabinoid profile. That's like the first thing in the report. And what you want to look for is, does it have CBD listed on there? You want to, if you really want to go all out, you can check the percentage of CBD that's listed on the sample against what's listed on the bottle, if you really want to go as far as that. But most people are probably not going to do that. They're just going to check if the lab report shows the product actually has CBD. It is good to find to go with companies that update their batch numbers so that you know if the batch number actually corresponds to the product that you have in your hand. And the way the industry is going now, it is actually, you have companies that have these QR codes in Indiana, this is mandatory, but the QR code is matched to the batch report for the batch of the product that you're holding. And just to repeat that to make it make more sense is, so every company produces its products in batches. So there's batch 1 might be 1,000 bottles, and that was made in the fall. Batch 2 will be another 1,000 bottles, and that was made in the winter. So you want to make sure that the lab report that you're looking at corresponds to the batch where your CBD bottle came from. I think that makes sense, right? And with these QR codes nowadays, it's getting easier and easier to make sure that the bottle you're holding corresponds to the batch that is listed on the lab report. So I think any CBD company that doesn't incorporate the batch and the QR code is going to be left behind, and I'm sure there plenty will be in that situation because they're just not going to take on that. I don't know why, but they're not going to provide that information. The next thing you want to verify, after you've verified obviously that there's CBD in the product by checking the lab report, you want to see if you have a full spectrum product or a CBD isolate product. And what I mean by that is some companies, because they have something to gain obviously from advertising their product as a full spectrum product, what they might do is write full spectrum on the bottle, but actually be selling something that's made from a CBD isolate. Now, other companies who are just open about the fact that there's a CBD isolate and doesn't contain terpenes or other cannabinoids as a full spectrum product would, they're not hiding anything, and that's fine. And some people prefer CBD isolate products, especially people that have to take drug tests and should have absolutely no THC in their system. So in that case, you don't need to look for that on the lab report. But in the case that you want to verify that you have a real full spectrum whole plant extract CBD, there's two other things that you should be looking for on the lab report, and I'll make sure to show that on the YouTube video for the audio that I'm recording here. You want to look in the cannabinoid profile, again, where you're verifying that there is CBD indeed in the product. You want to look for the presence of other cannabinoids. Likely there will be some THC in the product, obviously not more than the legal limit of 0.3%, unless it's a marijuana product, then you could easily have far more THC than that. But if it's a hemp product, as most CBD oils, at least the majority are, that people are ordering online obviously are, you can't have more than that legal limit. And then you want to look for the presence of other cannabinoids. And this will vary from product to product. It might be CBG, you might see some THCV, you might see some CBN. It really just depends on the product. Some products have other cannabinoids in their acid form. You might see some CBDA or some THCA. It really just depends on how they formulated the product and the brand that made the product. So you do want to look for that because that will further verify that you have a full spectrum product that has not just CBD, but other cannabinoids such as the minor cannabinoids that I mentioned. Now, the other thing you want to look for then is a terpene profile. The terpene profile is the part of the lab sheet that shows you that the product you have contains terpenes. And for it to be a full spectrum product as advertised, as if it's advertised that way, it should indeed contain terpenes. Some common terpenes are limonene, linalool, beta-caryophyllene, and there's plenty of others that exist in hemp and marijuana, but you just want to, and they're going to vary again because there's a lot of different strains out there. There's different ways of formulating the final product, so there will be variation in that terpene profile, but you want to see first that it's there and that there is a presence of terpenes, and you can then research further if there's ones you prefer or ones that you want to research on their effects or their potential benefits. The other thing I always harp on people and remind them to check on, of course, is the cleanliness of the product. You want to look at, there's the big three when it comes to lab reports are the pesticides, checking if just make sure there's no presence of residual pesticides. There are pesticides obviously used in the industry. It's not illegal to use them. They just have to be used and then flushed out. And there can't be a presence of them left in the final product up to a certain limit, of course. So different states do have different limits. I don't expect the people listening to this to know all that information, obviously, but I do expect you to at least check that it's not above the safety limit. For pesticides, you want to look for also heavy metals, that it's not above the safety limit that's allowed for that. And then also for any microbes or other toxins that could hurt you, things like E. coli and Salmonella. You don't want anything like that in the final product. Now, these are all very standard for any supplement or vitamin. They're very standard things to check for. But as a checklist, as I said, you do want to go through and you want to check for cannabis products at least. It is the cannabinoid profile, it is the terpene profile. You want to look for the pesticides, the heavy metals, and then any kind of microbes or toxins that could be present in the final product that you're actually consuming. And these are the main sections that you're going to see on any lab report. Now, one thing I want you to watch out for that I've seen, unfortunately, in the space is some companies are showing that they have test results, but they're not completing all the tests. They're just simply showing that section. So, for instance, I've seen some companies show a section for the heavy metals, but then it'll say NT for not tested. That means they're showing you the standard section that's included on the lab report for heavy metals, but they're not showing you that they actually tested for the heavy metals because NT stands for not tested. Now, if it said ND, N as in Nancy, D as in dog, that stands for not detected. That's good. That means it wasn't detected past the limit that's considered safe. And you do have to be a bit of a detective at this point because it's an unregulated industry. Nobody is going to do this homework for you. That's why I try to do these quick podcasts and videos just to keep you informed. But even I can't sit there and look at it for you. Now, I do like to nerd out on this stuff, and I know some of you do as well. So if you want to share links, please don't just say, "Can you check this brand?" I'm not going to do that. But if you ever want to share a link directly or a file of a lab report, I'll be happy to look at that and provide my comments because I enjoy that a lot and it helps me learn alongside of you. So again, please don't send me link to brand X, Y, or Z. Can you check on them? I have a lot to do. I'm not going to do that, but I would look at a direct link to the lab report, or if you want to send me a file, you can email that if you have a PDF. And I will look at it and at least give you my comments if I have any. So I hope you found this podcast beneficial. It's not very long because there isn't really that much to say or check. What you want to do is number one, you always want to be checking the lab reports. Number two, you want to check for the presence of cannabidiol. Number three, if it is advertised as a full spectrum hemp extract or full spectrum CBD cannabis product, you want to check for the presence of other cannabinoids such as CBDA, THCV, CBG, CBN, and the list goes on and on. There's over 100 known cannabinoids, so there should be a presence of some other cannabinoid other than CBD for it to be a full spectrum product. And then also you want to check for the presence of terpenes in the lab report. And then last but not least, you obviously want to check that the product is safe in terms of residual metals, solvents, pesticides, and any kind of microbes like E. coli or Salmonella, just to make sure it's a safe product. So I hope, again, you found this beneficial. I will upload this as a podcast, but I'm on SoundCloud and iTunes, and I'm also going to probably make it into a video where I show you some screenshots of the type of lab reports and sections that I'm talking about in this audio. So that way you can follow along and also look at it with your own. So I hope, again, for the third time, you found this beneficial. Let me know if you have questions or comments. I always love hearing from each and every one of you. I appreciate your support. Please leave a review if you found this or any of the content beneficial. And until next time, this is Vadim, the CBD professor from cbdschool.com, signing out. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.